Stop being kind to these 7 people. If you want true peace in later life, you've spent your whole life being kind, patient, and giving. But at a certain age, you have to ask yourself, does everyone still deserve that from you? Not all kindness is noble. Sometimes it becomes a trap, a drain, a slow erosion of your peace, your energy, your time. And if you're not careful, you'll give away the last of what you have to people who never gave anything back. Growing older isn't about becoming colder. It's about becoming wiser. And wisdom means knowing when to stop pouring yourself into people who only take. This video is for you, the one who's carried too much, stayed quiet too long, and is finally ready to reclaim the peace you've earned. Let's uncover 7 types of people you should stop being kind to. Not because you've changed, but because they never truly valued your kindness to begin with. And if this message speaks to something inside you, don't scroll past. Subscribe to Devotion of Salvation for more videos that speak truth, restore clarity, and help you protect the peace you've worked a lifetime to build. Number 1. The constant taker. As you enter your later years, a time when you truly deserve peace, contentment, and love, protecting your emotional energy isn't just a right, it's a responsibility to yourself. One of the most draining forces on your well-being comes from the constant taker, the type of person who only shows up when they need something. They don't call to check in, they don't offer help, they don't even remember your birthday. But the moment they need a favor, you're the first person they think of. That's not love. That's not respect. That's using you. Have you ever noticed someone like this in your life? Someone who disappears when you're unwell, who forgets your special moments, who has never once said, "Is there anything I can do for you?" These people see you not as family, not as a friend, but as a convenient service. Take the story of Gloria, 78. She's always been the reliable one, the caregiver, the helper, the lender. Everyone comes to her when they're in trouble, but when she was in the hospital, no one came to visit. On her birthday, her phone didn't ring. When she needed support, she was alone. Here's the hard question. Is that family, or is that just emotional freeloading with a familiar face? As philosopher Epictetus said, we are not disturbed by what happens to us, but by our thoughts about what happens. And it's your own silence, your lack of boundaries, that invites this pattern to continue. You don't need to be cruel to protect your peace, but you do need the courage to say no, without guilt, without explanation. That's not being mean. That's self-respect. It's realizing that your time and your energy are sacred, especially in these precious years of your life. Ask yourself, if I stopped helping that person, would they still include me in their life? If the answer is no, then you already know what kind of relationship it is. Maya Angelou once said, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Constant takers have already shown you their truth. Stop waiting for them to change. Protect your peace now." At this stage in life, your kindness should be shared with people who value it, who reciprocate it, and who help you grow emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. Don't allow your goodness to become a burden. You are not here to fix people. You are here to live in peace, joy, and dignity. So today, take a moment. Reflect on your relationships. Who truly cares for you? Who drains your spirit? And more importantly, do you have the strength to reclaim your peace? If this message resonates with you, and you believe in living a life of self-respect, wisdom, and spiritual strength, then we invite you to join our growing community. Subscribe to Devotion of Salvation, where we share heartfelt truths, real-life wisdom, and timeless values to help you live the rest of your life with intention and grace. Let's walk this journey together. Your peace matters, your voice matters, and your time is now. Number 2, the chronic critic. There are certain types of people you must learn to keep at a distance as you grow older, not because you become selfish, but because you finally come to understand the true value of peace of mind. And one of the most important types to distance yourself from, if you want to preserve your happiness and emotional well-being, is the chronic critic. You know the type. They're not overtly rude or aggressive, Their words don't come out as obvious insults, but somehow after every conversation with them, you walk away feeling smaller, inadequate, maybe even ashamed. Their criticism is subtle, wrapped in concern or disguised as advice, yet it chips away at your confidence like water wearing down stone. Take the case of Raymond, 78. He used to look forward to family visits, but over time those visits became emotionally exhausting. Every time someone dropped by, they'd leave behind remarks like, "You still haven't fixed that light?" Or, "Are you really eating that at your age?" Or, "You probably can't read books like you used to, right?" These may sound like passing comments, but to Raymond, they were a series of quiet cuts, small stabs to his pride, his autonomy, his joy. The truth is, this happens to many older adults, and it's not just about one rude person, it's about how repeated, low-level criticism can gradually erode your self-esteem and steal the joy out of your everyday life. But here's something you must remember. At this stage in your life, you don't owe anyone an explanation. You are not required to prove your worth. You have already lived, worked, and endured enough. Now is the time to protect your peace. As Eleanor Roosevelt once said, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. So ask yourself, why are you still maintaining a relationship with someone who consistently makes you feel worse about yourself? Are you being kind to yourself? Or are you sacrificing your inner peace to hold on to connections that no longer serve you? Many people will tell you, you have to tolerate others. But the truth is, aging should come with the wisdom to choose better. You've earned the right to curate your circle, to say no, to walk away. And if someone, family, friend, or otherwise, continually undermines your sense of self, it's not only okay to distance yourself, it's necessary. The antidote to constant criticism isn't confrontation, it's boundaries. You don't have to argue or explain. You can simply stop giving them the power to affect you. Choose spaces and people who uplift you, who make you feel lighter after every conversation. As Marcus Aurelius wisely noted, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. So look closely. Is this chronic critic really someone you need to keep around? Or are they just a reminder of your old habit of tolerating too much? Are you ready to finally let go of the people who weigh down your spirit? If not, ask yourself, why am I still holding on and what is it costing me? Number 3, the guilt tripper, the one who always makes you feel guilty. Have you ever felt like you're paying the price for your own kindness in old age? As we grow older, our energy, time, and emotional bandwidth become more precious than ever. And yet there are people, often those closest to us, who manipulate our emotions and make us feel guilty simply for trying to set healthy boundaries. These are what we call guilt trippers, people who use guilt as a weapon to control and extract more than you can or should give. Take Helen, 74, for example, a vibrant and thoughtful woman who enjoys her quiet mornings and afternoon walks. But her adult grandson constantly pressures her for favors, rides, babysitting, errands. And every time she gently refuses, he replies with something like, "I guess spending time with your grandson isn't important anymore." That single sentence is enough to shatter her peace and push her to say yes, even when every part of her wants to say no. Why? Because guilt, when weaponized by someone you love, can feel unbearable. But here's the truth. You are not selfish for choosing peace over pressure. You are not cold-hearted for protecting your emotional health. As Brené Brown once said, daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves, even when we risk disappointing others. That courage is what keeps your soul intact. Ask yourself this: at what point did we start believing that love must always come at the cost of our well-being? Where did we learn that we owe people access to our energy just because they expect it? Here's another quote to hold on to. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. That wisdom from Eleanor Roosevelt isn't just clever, it's powerful. When someone makes you feel guilty just because you said no, the problem isn't your boundary, it's their sense of entitlement. True kindness is not about self-sacrifice to the point of suffering. It's about giving from a place of joy, not resentment. If you constantly have to explain yourself, apologize, or walk on eggshells to avoid someone's cold shoulder, then it's no longer kindness. It's emotional survival. You don't owe anyone your peace. You don't have to keep proving that you care, especially when your yes comes at the cost of your mental clarity. If someone only accepts you when you're always available, always agreeable, always giving, they're not accepting you at all. They're using you. So I ask you, are you living to keep others comfortable, or are you living to keep yourself whole? If this message resonates with you, if you're ready to reclaim your peace and set firm yet compassionate boundaries, subscribe to Devotion of Salvation. Join a community that values strength, self-respect, and spiritual clarity, especially in the golden years. Your peace is sacred. Protect it. Number 4, the secret competitor. But among the people you must learn to avoid, there's one particularly toxic type, the secret competitor. This is the person who never celebrates your success wholeheartedly, who subtly undermines your achievements, and who always finds a way to make you feel less than, all while wearing the mask of friendship. You might recognize them by how they react when something good happens to you. Do they cheer with genuine joy, or is there always a backhanded compliment, a dismissive joke, or an unnecessary comparison? These people don't need to say much. Their tone, their silence, or their perfectly timed sarcasm says it all. Take, for example, Marjorie, a 72-year-old retiree who decided to join a local painting class to rekindle a passion from her youth. She wasn't trying to become the next Picasso, she simply wanted to enjoy herself. But one of her longtime friends kept making snide remarks. "At your age? Really?" Or, "That looks like something my grandson did." Though disguised as humor, these comments chipped away at Marjorie's confidence. Eventually, she stopped attending the class, not because she lacked talent, but because she felt ashamed to enjoy herself. As President Theodore Roosevelt once said, "Comparison is the thief of joy." And in your golden years, that joy is too precious to let anyone steal. If someone consistently makes you feel like your accomplishments are trivial or your joy is silly, then it's time to ask yourself, why am I keeping this person around? What value do they bring into my life other than discomfort or self-doubt? Getting older isn't about proving yourself. It's about finally giving yourself permission to live on your own terms. You deserve to surround yourself with people who lift you up, not those who try to quietly drag you into a race you never agreed to run. The philosopher Epictetus put it simply, the key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. If someone consistently dims your light, no matter how long you've known them, it may be time to lovingly step back and protect your peace. Because at this stage of life, you're not here to compete. You're here to enjoy, to express, to laugh freely, learn something new if you want to, and share your life with those who are genuinely happy to see you shine. Let go of the hidden rivals. You don't owe them your joy. You owe it to yourself. Number 5, the passive-aggressive manipulator. In the later chapters of life, peace of mind becomes more precious than wealth, success, or even health. After years of sacrifice, labor, and enduring life's battles, you deserve to live in an environment free from emotional toxins. Unfortunately, not everyone around you will share that vision. Among the types of people you should never feel obliged to be kind to in old age, the passive-aggressive manipulator stands out as one of the most emotionally draining and dangerous. Have you ever known someone who never confronts issues directly, but instead uses sarcasm, silence, guilt-tripping, or veiled comments to make you feel inadequate? That's a passive-aggressive person. They don't yell, they don't argue, but they know exactly how to make you question yourself. Take, for example, Lawrence, a 79-year-old retiree who frequently asks for a little help from his neighbor. But instead of kindness, he gets passive mockery. His neighbor doesn't refuse outright, but responds with a sigh, a smirk, or a sharp joke about old folks being too needy. No harsh words are spoken, but the sting is there, and it cuts deep. Let me ask you something. How many times have you hesitated to express your needs? Not because you didn't need help, but because you feared ridicule or judgment. If a relationship makes you second-guess yourself, tiptoe around conversations, or feel smaller every time you interact, it's not a relationship worth maintaining, especially not in your later years, when your emotional well-being is more vulnerable and far more valuable. As Maya Angelou wisely said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Passive-aggressive manipulators rarely change, and it's not your job to fix them. Being kind does not mean being a doormat. It doesn't mean sacrificing your peace to keep someone else comfortable. If someone repeatedly disturbs your emotional equilibrium, distancing yourself is not selfish, it's survival. Peace is not a luxury, it's a requirement for a life well lived. Especially as you grow older, protecting your peace should be a priority. These subtle attacks on your dignity might seem small, but over time they chip away at your self-worth. That's why you must have the courage to draw boundaries and walk away from anyone who disrespects your need for harmony. Ask yourself, is there someone in your life who makes you feel uneasy without ever saying a word? Have you been tolerating emotional manipulation under the guise of politeness or duty? It's time to stop. You owe it to yourself to live the rest of your life in serenity, not in silent suffering. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And to master yourself, you must first master your environment, the people you allow to influence your heart and mind. If you found this message meaningful, we invite you to subscribe to Devotion of Salvation, a channel dedicated to protecting your peace, nurturing your soul, and offering wisdom for every season of life. Your peace is sacred. Guard it with everything you've got. Number 6, the nostalgic underminer. There are people in life who, without ever raising their voice or a hand, manage to hurt you with nothing more than a few well-placed words. One of the most draining types is what I call the nostalgic underminer. Those who constantly drag you back into the past, not to reflect or reconcile, but to keep you tethered to your old mistakes as if you've never grown or moved on. You've probably met them. They're the ones who, when you share something you're proud of, respond with a casual jab. Remember that mess you made years ago? They laugh, but it's the kind of laughter that cuts deeper than silence. Take, for instance, Mr. George, 74, who once failed in a business venture during his early 50s. He rebuilt his life, paid back every cent, and even became a quiet success. But every family gathering, his younger cousin can't resist a joke. "Hey George, remember when your grand idea nearly bankrupted you?" Everyone chuckles, George forces a smile. But inside, that old wound reopens just a bit more. The real harm here isn't just embarrassment, it's erosion. These comments, repeated often enough, begin to gnaw at your confidence. They pull you back into your former self, as if your efforts to change never counted. You start questioning, have I really moved on? Am I still that person? That seed of doubt? That's how they win. But let's be clear, you are not obligated to wear your past like a name tag. The past is for learning, not for living in. As Paulo Coelho wisely said, you drown not by falling into a river, but by staying submerged in it. If someone insists on seeing you only through the lens of what you once did wrong, that's their limitation, not yours. Getting older should not mean becoming more tolerant of toxic patterns. In fact, it's the perfect time to protect your peace. You've earned the right to choose the energy you allow into your space, and you don't owe anyone a lifetime audition for forgiveness. Who you are today matters more than who you were yesterday. Anyone who refuses to acknowledge that doesn't deserve front-row access to your life. So ask yourself, who keeps dragging you back to a version of yourself you've outgrown? Who tries to remind you of every stumble rather than every step forward? And most importantly, why are they still close enough to whisper in your ear? Old age doesn't require a crowd. It requires clarity. You don't need people who remember your lowest moments. You need people who celebrate how far you've come. As Eleanor Roosevelt once said, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Don't hand that power to anyone, least of all those who confuse nostalgia with emotional control. Let the past rest and walk forward with those who respect the path you're on, not the one you left behind. Number 7, the public performer. One type of person you should stop being kind to in old age is the public performer, the one who only shows you kindness when others are watching. You've likely seen this before. When there's an audience, they smile, praise you, act affectionate. But once the crowd is gone, so is their concern. You become invisible. Take the story of 81-year-old Mrs. Liu. Her daughter often brings friends over, proudly calling her the best mom, showing off how well she takes care of her. But when the guests leave, Mrs. Li quietly makes her own tea, tidies up after everyone, and barely receives a word of care from her daughter. The love, it was just a performance. This kind of behavior reduces you to a prop, a background for someone else's image. It's not real affection, it's theater. And at your age, you don't need stage lights. You need sincerity. Real relationships aren't performed. As Marcus Aurelius said, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. Don't play along in someone else's act. Step away. Protect your peace. Ask yourself, are your relationships real, or are you just part of someone else's show? If the answer hurts, it's time to take back your space. You deserve relationships that don't need witnesses to be meaningful. As Maya Angelou wisely put it, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Stop tolerating conditional kindness. Step away from the spotlight and into the quiet, steady light of true connection. If this message speaks to you, subscribe to Devotion of Salvation, where we share life lessons, truth, and strength for the journey ahead. Your peace is sacred. Let's protect it together.